Joining me on this broadcast at this time is Meera Shankar, highly respected former Foreign Services Officer. We've got Ashok Kanta, he's been a High Commissioner to Sri Lanka and to China. We've got Tharaka Balasubriya, Member of Parliament, State Minister for Regional Cooperation, and Ahilan Kadirgamar is a columnist, writes extensively on the politics of Sri Lanka. I want to go across to Ashok Kanta, who's been in the unique position of being Ambassador to China and High Commissioner to Sri Lanka both. And now we've got, Mr. Kanta, a situation where, in part because of the debt coming from China, which ultimately proved to be too big a burden, and because of the excesses of the Rajapaksa family, Sri Lanka finds itself in a complete mess, right in India's neighborhood. India is still helping China, very silent about the kind of help that they've provided to Sri Lanka in this hour of crisis. Where do you think Sri Lanka goes from here, given the scenes that Pramod just showed us playing themselves out in the Prime Minister's home and office?
I know, Rahul, we have to look at things in perspective. This was a crisis which was building up for quite some time. We had the unprecedented economic crisis, which is still unfolding, and we have a perfect storm combining that economic crisis with political crisis. You referred to the role of China. It's not a made in China crisis, but China has undoubtedly contributed to what we are witnessing in Sri Lanka today. I was in Sri Lanka when government of Sri Lanka decided to opt for the debt-fueled infrastructure development strategy, with China extending loans at near commercial rates for projects which were completely unviable. You had Hambantota Port, which was not economically viable. You had Matala International Airport, which is regarded as the emptiest airport in the world. You have Port City project, which again is without adequate due diligence or economic viability. All this resulted in Sri Lanka landing up in a situation where it was unable to service its debt. And then, of course, there were legacy issues. There are structural challenges in Sri Lankan economy. You have serious mismanagement of economy by the Rajapaksas, and on top of that you had COVID situation, and more recently Ukraine war. All this has led to a situation where people are really suffering, and there is palpable anger among the people, and they would like to see change in political.
That's an important point you make, and I want to put that question to Ambassador Meera Shankar, because in that live report from Colombo, people are asking for a new beginning, they're asking for change. The reality is, at this moment, the Sri Lankan economy cannot afford much different. Whatever Ranil Wickremesinghe was doing is essentially what the next government will have to take forward, because they only have $25 million in usable foreign reserves. Given the apathetic condition of the Sri Lankan economy, how do you think Sri Lanka should go about the task of rebuilding itself, and what can India do in this?
Well, it's going to be an extremely difficult task. It's not going to be easy, and whichever government comes into place, either as an interim government or post-elections, I think is going to have a very, very challenging task ahead of it. The mismanagement of the economy is clear. If you look at Sri Lanka's GDP, it shrank from about $94 billion in 2018 to about $76 billion today. So that's almost a $20 billion drop in the GDP of the country. And it's estimated that to get back to 2018 levels, it may take Sri Lanka almost up to 2026. Inflation is running at something like 54% today. And there are some projections that it could touch even 70%. So clearly gross mismanagement of the economy, fueled by the vanity projects of the Rajapaksas and the easy and reckless availability of debt from China. Then you had a series of crises which hit Sri Lanka's main foreign exchange earners. Tourism has been their main foreign exchange earner, and ever since the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka, where the terrorist incident provided a real setback to tourism, it's really never recovered, because then you had the COVID pandemic, and then you've gone into the Ukraine war, and that combined with the economic crisis has led to a really dire situation today, where people are short of food, fuel, medicine, petrol or diesel for cars, schools have been closed, government offices have been closed except for essential public services. So really gross mismanagement. Now you have a decision. Mr. Gotabaya has said that he will resign on Wednesday, and Ranil Wickremesinghe has also expressed his willingness to step down once a new government is in place.